Hello, everyone. This is Simone Mitchens from SimoneMitchens.com, and I am a business growth and marketing expert. I work with service provider practitioners who want to put their services and expertise in front of the right people. Today, I have Thaty Oliveira. She is the founder of Care Tactics, and she's an expert in many things, but one of the main things we're going to be talking about today is her expertise on newborn care. And that's what Care Tactics is all focused on. So if you have a baby who cries a lot, who has to be fed every 2 hours, if they cry and you don't even know why, if they don't sleep at night, right? If they wake up every hour, you wanted to talk to her, okay? She knows, she's the expert who helps parents to feel confident caring for their newborn, and also she helps the baby. The way I see is like happy baby, happy parents.
Yeah,
that's what she helps parents to do. So I have a 13-year-old right now. I wish I had a lot of her tactics and strategies. I wish I knew that when I had my own child. But it's never too late. And one of the things that is very interesting and unique about Thaty is this. She really focused on the first 3 years of your child's life. And according to her, is the most important years are the 3 first years. So let me just ask you, did you know that 80% of your child's brain development happens during the first 3 years? No wonder that is very important. And it's shaped by the early experiences, very important, provided by their main caregivers. It's a no-brainer, right? But a lot of us don't even realize what we do. One of the things that she says that really stuck to my head was the terrible twos don't happen. The terrible twos, it happens in the crib. So let's hear from Thaty and what she has to say. Thaty, welcome, and share with us what inspired you to open your business, what kind of background, what should people learn from you?
Well, thank you for having me, guys. So yes, I'm Thaty. My background is in early childhood education. So I've been a teacher and a parent educator, but I take pride in saying that I've been a professional career nanny for 15 years. And for me, I think that's what inspired me to open my business, right? So when I was in the classroom, I wasn't as fulfilled as I was when I was a nanny, because I feel like, educating in care 1, 2, or 3 kids was way different than being in the classroom with 20 kids. And I knew exactly what they needed, but when it's just you and another teacher, you can't really give them, the individualized care that they need. So with my success, I'll say, co-raising, amazing children, it got to a point that parents, the folks I worked with, they kept saying that it wasn't that I was lucky, it wasn't that my kids were blessed or they were special. There's like, Thaty, the only common factor here, it's you. So it's not, that we are special, it's you are the one who actually provide this type of care. And that's why, all of these children thrive, in whatever they want to grow up to be, right? So they were nurtured, they were challenged the way they're supposed to be challenged in a young age. So seeing that, as I said, like my best interview would be to bring all of my, the kids that I've worked with and just like, here you go, just take a look at them. So that really inspired me and made me think that, well, it's kind of selfish to just work with, 5, 6 families at the time. And then I did find myself, informally coaching parents and guiding, and friend of a parent would come like, oh, she knows this. So I started, talking more and working with more families like on an individual basis. But, it was time that I felt like, okay, I need to bring this knowledge out there. It's been proven with the kids that I've worked with that, okay, there is something here. So I need to stop, kind of stop being so humble and thinking that it's just, it just so happened that I had something there. And it was the type of care and the type of experiences, engagement that I had with the children, and that parents were starting to do the same, and they were having, real results with it. So with that, I was like, okay, it's it's time, not being selfish, and really get out there and help as many parents as they can. Um, so yeah, that's what, inspired me to start.
Would you like also to share with the audience what you used to do and what kind of play did you like to play with your siblings when you were little, and how
Uh,
also things that you did when you were little that kind of already gave clues to your life purpose and your
yeah.
business today?
Sure. So yeah, I did share that story with you that how I grew up wanting to be a teacher, right? And even as 7-year-old, I would sit my siblings in there like, no, you sit down and you're gonna learn, because I actually love, I love teaching, and I feel like I don't necessarily need to be in the classroom to be a teacher, and that's why I love being with kids, because when I was working as a nanny, I could follow their lead, right? So it's the thing that in the day-to-day you have teachable moments, it's all the engagement from their interest. And that's something that I did not know when I was 7. So my siblings did not like playing school with me, but it's something that I always enjoyed, and that I learned soon that, teaching, especially with kids, I'm always learning. So for me, it was that point that I was going to school, and I have a few degrees, and I'm learning all the research, and I'm learning all the practice, the theory, but I'm there in the field, and I'm watching it, how it develops, right? How it plays out on the real life, how it works. And it's different when you are with a child for the entire day for 2 years, for either 7 to 5, 5 days a week for 2 years. And there is, as I said, like, it's almost like I'm a nanny scientist, because I've been observing these children, and I've been observing how the development worked, along with whatever I was learning in school, and the research that I was writing or that I was reading. So that it just, I think everything came together in a way that is just like, it makes sense. So for me, it was also nice to see there was the nurturing part that maybe it was my talent or something like that I already had, but to have that confidence that when I was learning, like, okay, now I know why I'm doing this, and I know why it works, right? But also as I said, this comes with life experience, that every child is unique, right? And every family is unique. So that's the part that we need to that I focus on. Like, every family dynamic is different, so we need to factor in all of those points in it. And it's not just a cookie cutter, right? So when I'm playing teacher, yes, this is the stereotype that we have, and you're gonna sit here, I'm gonna teach you the content, but this is not what happens. And when I talk to parents, I know there's so many books out there, there's so many Facebook groups, Facebook groups out there, and everybody's an expert in everything, and they're giving their experience and their advice, but they need to realize that some folks, they have the experience with their family, they have experience with just a group of people, and it's different, right? Again, every child's unique. The book was not written just for your child. Unfortunately, that's not true. And I've been very fortunate, and that's what I say, I loved being a nanny, because I was able to see how different parenting styles and different practices apply to different kids, and how there's also the mix and match, and what works from one child doesn't necessarily work for another child, and it doesn't necessarily work for that, for the family. So it's everything combined, everything together, and life, life experience, I have to say, yes.
Right. So share with us a little bit about your education, and some of the projects you're involved in.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot. How long do we have?
I know, just the top 3 projects.
So my background, as I said, is
You mentioned you're a nanny, but what kind of a nanny are you?
As I said, I'm an educator, professional nanny, and I take a lot of pride. Like, I did go to school. I have a bachelor's in early childhood education. I have a master's degree in education. I also have a master's of management in leadership and coaching, which I got after I started informally coaching and consulting with parents. So when they started coming to me and wanting help, even though I wanted to help, I wanted to make sure that I was doing the thing right in the business world, right? So that's what led me actually to go back, and it helped me with the leadership. So I do a lot of advocacy. I'm involved in lots of organizations. So one of them, the National Association for Education of Young Children. So I love the research that they put out there. Also 0 to 3. I'm on the board of the INA, International Nanny Association. So I'm a director. let's see what else. I'm also an advocate with the Matahari Women's Worker Center. So we work with lots of nannies there too. So my work is also like, I love working with nannies and parents because they're doing the same work, right? If they're there caring for children, I think it's important that I address their different things that we address. But, I do see nannies as educators, and I feel it's important to actually get that knowledge out there so they can also give those best experience to the children.
Right.
And as I said, like last weekend, I was participating of what we call like a breastfeeding fast. So it was the MIT's Make Breast Pump Not Suck hackathon. So they have, it was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. They had all of those engineers trying to come out with prototypes of it. I think it's the fourth year. But making a better experience. And it was so humbling to hear stories from moms. And because for me, I work with, and I help parents, and I see the struggle that moms have, but there's some stuff there that I was like, wow, it was really humbling to see other sides too of stories that, unfortunately I didn't experience. So I don't have a child of my own, but I've helped parents in the way that I can and support. And I learn about breastfeeding and techniques that I can help, but also hearing from those moms and all the different experiences that each of them have. Again, like I only know with the moms that I worked with, right? So it was a whole new game changer. And I was there in particular for the policy summit. So I was part of the Make Family Leave Not Suck policy summit. So as I said, I am involved in advocacy, and I go to DC to talk with our reps, our senators, and talk about the importance of childcare, the importance of early childhood education. But at the moment, I also talk about the importance of paid family leave. And it's not just about the maternity leave, right? And there's a document that just came out. It's called 0 weeks. So the United States is the only country, or actually one more country, that has only 0 weeks of paid leave, like for family leave. And for me, it's just like, come on, guys, like, you needed the time for bonding the baby. But even the maternity leave per se, the mom's body, it takes like 6 to 8 weeks to recover from birth. So how do you expect, like, a mom to be back at work hours and 10 days? And there are some super moms that take pride in that. It's like, but let's not make that normal. You need time to be with your baby and and to heal. So it was amazing to be there with wonderful leaders and see what we
would you like to know what my favorite one in this birth parenting advocacy thing is? As soon after I had my daughter, I was breastfeeding. I breastfed her until she was almost 4. My option, and it helped. It worked for myself and my family. And I worked part-time, and it was very interesting to see my colleagues taking break for, a smoking break. They'll go for a smoke. I would say at least once every hour. But for me, I didn't have pumping break. I had to pump on my during my lunch break. So I was like, wow, what's wrong with this picture? I said, I didn't even have a room for pumping. I had luckily I worked in the hospital, so I requested to go to one of the maternity rooms and just to have some privacy. And I worked in the hospital, so there was nothing out there to support moms who wanted to in what the different lifestyles they choose to live.
And that's the thing, like I think some of the stories that's the story that I didn't hear. And some parents, even though I work with parents, those are not the type of stories that they were gonna necessarily share with me. But what happens from their expectations before they when they're planning their birth, right? They want to do everything natural, but then they're in the hospital. It's a complete different experience, and they're not necessarily teaching the mom how to breastfeed. They think it's something natural that's just going to happen, and it's not really. They don't say it hurts. They don't, the challenge that come with it. And as I tell parents, of course, a happy baby is a baby fed. So don't feel pressure that you have to be breastfed. Of course, I am breastfeed advocate. We know, everybody knows the benefits of it, but ultimately the mom needs to be healthy and happy about it. So we don't want it to make it miserable for her. but we see all this pressure without giving the support that they need, right? Without having, they have stories about moms pumping in the bathroom, which is very common, and that's the one that I've heard so many times because they don't have a space. They
Yeah,
even
that
talk
one
here
I
at
refuse.
MIT, which is a renowned place, architecture, like, from a award winner architect, and she's the one who started the hackathon with, the breastfeeding, make the breast pump not suck. And she talks, here I am, and this renowned world-class building, and it's all glass. So for her to pump, she had to go in the bathroom because, like, for the
Yeah.
6 floors that they had there, it was just completely glad there was not a private room that she could go and pump, right?
Right.
And this is how you see the inclusive, like, people are really not thinking about it.
Right. So let
So
me ask you this. What were the top 4 things that we as parents of new, like someone who's parents for the first time, new parents, and or parents who just had a baby, and what can they do? What are the top 4 things that they can do to support their baby to be a happy baby? I know that you talk about the first 3 years. So what are like the top 3 or 4 things that we need as a new parent to be aware of? And what is the impact that might have later on?
So I'd like to start with the pep talk, right? So just really take a deep breath and know that you are coming from a place of heart, of love. So you're doing great. So as long as you have the unconditional love, which I know every parent has.
Guilt. No, mama.
Exactly. So feel that, everybody's doing the best that they can with what they have. So come from that place that whatever you're doing, it's in the name of love and you're doing a wonderful job. Right. Once you pass that, because the babies, they're so sensitive and they feel the anxiety and they feel the stress. So that's what it's challenging too. I say a baby, sometimes an analogy I says like, well, something that happened to me. So a few years ago, I had a tumor scare, and I went for my biopsy, and there I was lying down, a technician or a nurse, I don't know, she saw something. She's like, just a second. She left the room and she came back with somebody else. I was like, okay, just a second. She left and she came with somebody else. Just a second. There were like 5 people 5 times coming back. By that time, I thought I was dying.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, someone tell me what's going on. Like, clearly you guys don't know what you're doing. And please, like, so I feel like sometimes with the baby is the same thing. So if you're trying to console a crying baby, but you're changing things every 30 seconds because it's not working, again, the baby's like, uh-oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. So I feel like consistent.
Really? That is so
give
interesting.
and give it a little more time. Like, it's not going to happen in 15, 30 seconds. So hanging there for 5 minutes doing the same rhythm or the same, kind of running. But if you keep changing every second, that's what I feel like a baby's thinking, because that's what I see when they start to freaking out even more. So if you keep changing whatever.
Comfort the baby.
Yeah.
You move the baby or you put it down or you keep changing every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
The baby will not get that.
Yeah, I feel like, because, and I know we are nervous and we're trying like, okay, this is not working, but it needs time to work, right? So sometimes because we're so worried and because we're so stressed, we just want to, okay, do something that's going to work, but without really thinking like, okay, but it takes time for them to see that you're actually doing
working
something.
5 in 30 seconds. I was expecting 5 seconds.
Yeah, it doesn't. So that's the one thing that I always tell parents, and it's like, that's a great point. And and I bring to my experience like, well, that's what I found. And I think, again, like I'm making like this point because I see it, like some moms, they're doing, and the baby starts crying and escalating even more. So I feel like give it a second. It's not instant, but keep doing, even if it's the same rhythm that you're doing, maybe a little tap and just keep calm, and the shushing. So give it time. And this with everything, really, the consistency. And that's what I told, like the terrible two, right? Sometimes the terrible two is the result of what happens at 1. The skills that you didn't give your child, that the child didn't get when they were 1, to cope with their emotions, to cope with communication and all that. So it is really important to be, the game plan is really about being intentional. It's like, okay, what are we going to do in this 3 years, right? If we're gonna set like a sleeping schedule, you have to be consistent, and I promise it's gonna pay off to actually be home for that nap time and not skipping and just because you're, have friends and you want to go to a restaurant. It does pay off, and you're gonna be thanking me.
So
Because
with that said, share with us a little bit about, I know you have a program called the Game Plan.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me, who is that program for, and what are some of the things that it helps your clients with or
Yeah.
parents with?
So the game plan was focused on, as I said, the first 3 years and not the first 3 months, because a lot of the new parents and parenting classes out there is really like the bringing the baby home, learning how to soothe the baby, changing diapers and all that. And in reality, it's like that's a small part of parenting, right? And because I focus on the brain development that happens within the first years, the game plan is like a holistic view of everything that, it's going to happen and how it impacts through later in life. So for example, as I said, routine, it's a big one. So you have to establish, and it's not that I say that I put the child on schedule. We learn how to read your child. We learn how to identify the patterns that your child already came to this world with, right? And we help to keep them. So it's sometimes like, kids are not mean because they want to be mean. They're mean, like as I said, when a child misbehaves, it's really, they're not having their basic needs met. They're most likely hungry, wet, or tired, right? So it's really those three things. And if you master reading your child and having a consistent, because kids also need that routine, the world is too chaotic for them, right? We can't be as like, oh my God, what's gonna happen today? So the consistency and routine, it's a matter of safety for children to feel safe. They know what's gonna happen. It's predictable. They know that they're gonna wake up, and they're gonna have this activity and this. So throughout their life, how do I call it? Like it develops a sense of security for them. So it's really important to have those routines established early on, and throughout as they grow, because then they feel that, okay, I know what's going on, mom and dad know what's going on, or or the nanny, they know, and I feel safe, and therefore I can thrive. And this goes even with learning environment, in the classroom. We only learn and we only thrive when we feel safe. So if we are if it's too chaotic, we never know where we're going to be today or what's going to happen. And as I said, it's not that every day we're going to do painting at 10 o'clock. No. So for example, when I was a nanny, it's basically we have breakfast, we get ready, we go for adventure. So adventure, it's either a museum or aquarium or playground. So it's an outing, right? So it's something cool that we do. We come home and then, wash hands in bathroom and then lunch, and then we have nap. And then in the afternoon, we have like a quieter time. So either we do lots of do books before nap, books when we wake up, and then it's either music and dancing time, or we can do like an arts and craft. But it is sometimes like a routine. So they know what to expect in the morning. They know that in the afternoon sometimes we stay, inside, depending on the time the work. Or if we go outside, it's like, because let's say I work until 5. So it's going to be something around the block. It's not something that we're going to take the train or the bus to go. So all of those stuff, when you do, again, consistent, it's developed that sense of security, and children can, thrive, the environment can, they can thrive in their environment. So, and then goes to the rich experiences, and it's all about, we had that debate, is it nature or is it nurturing? And it's both, right? So we do need to have those meaningful experiences with children. And it's not about having flashcards. As I said, my children aren't genius because I was there with a lesson plan, a curriculum. I hate the word curriculum when it comes to nanny, because I feel like it's child-led. It's not about me coming here and say, we're going to learn about trucks today. Right. No, it's like, when we see something, if they get interested, then we dive into that particular thing that the child has. But it's not me coming and imposing my curriculum. As I said, they're going to have the entire lives, to go to school and have curriculum pushed to them. So on those first 3 years, or even up to 5 or something, it's really child-led. It's learning how to read your child, and grow with them, and giving that extra challenge, see where they are, meet where they are, and a little push so they can continue to grow. So for me, another goal that I have is to really to install, like my ultimate goal is also to install the joy of curiosity. because if they're curious, they're going to want to
Right.
learn more, right? So they get
Exactly.
excited about learning. So that's another thing. So we need to make learning fun, reading to be part of like a routine. Common question that I have when I hear all the time, and it's so sad. Parents will tell me that their babies don't like reading. I was like, oh, they don't like it. They don't like books. And I was like, well, they don't know what they like, to be honest, if they're 4 months old. And then it's your relationship with books. Are you excited to read the book to them? Are you excited for that time? So it's all about setting an environment that's cozy and comfortable and secure. Believe me, like I don't have any child that I work with that don't like reading, because that's the snuggle time and it's fun, and we make jokes. So it's all about setting up that stage so they will learn how to love reading.
So your the game change, game plan, the game plan, it will help parents, new parents, and how to have a game plan for the first 3 years of their lives. And one of the things I heard a lot when my daughter was born, and even when she was a toddler, people would say to me, "Oh, wait until they're teenagers." And I was like, I really didn't want to have a bad experience. So I dedicated a lot of the things I did with my daughter to create a bond, to create things where I always felt like that I fall into a futuristic parent.
Yeah.
I'm present, but whatever I'm doing here, it has a purpose to, I'm curious, and I always wanted to make sure how that is going to impact my child's life down the road. So for parents who wanted to raise their children to their fullest potential, and it really starts in the crib, correct?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think so. One of the things I talk about in this class, we're not thinking sometimes when you think like, oh, what do you want your child to be? And they're thinking, oh, doctors and this and that. It's like, no, we need to think about those skills, that's empathy, resilience, kindness. So those are skills that they need in the early years, and they need to be modeled. So that's not something you're going to teach. Okay, honey, like empathy, something like this. It's not. So that's like those the social emotional skills are the ones that are most important, that needs to be modeled and experienced in those first years. So not, I shouldn't give that example, but sometimes I say like, also another way to say what I do, I make sure that kids don't grow up to be a-holes. Or because they have, I know, right?
Good selling proposition.
Yeah, because they get those skills. It needs to be early on, because and you will see as early as they are 7 years old. If they didn't get that, the kindness, resilience, you already see it played out. And it's not that they are doomed for life, but the work you're gonna have to do later on as they grow, it will be more intentional. It will be harder. It will be it's just harder work. So that's what I tell parents. Like my whole thing, I really want to get them before those struggles start, because now we know, like, there's no need to go through that partnership or those bumps on the road. So if we start right, it will minimize, and it will set the kid for life. Yes, there's repair, and that's when parents hire me for consulting behavior and issues and all that. Yes, I can work with that, but my goal is really to prevent. So I don't want, there's no need for parents to go through that. And as I said, like, we see this in adults. Like, research has shown how the lack of attachment and how the nurturing that wasn't present in the first years have like an impact in so many areas of life. Actually, just recently, I was in another conference, and they were saying this is the first year. Like, the first year, they had newborns that had all that care, but then let's say if they were in a really like a poor environment, like not nurturing, not challenging, but they still thrived because they had really nurturing setting in the first year. And then they had the opposite too. So children that didn't have a good first year, and it was in a toxic environment, but then all of those years after, they were in wonderful homes, and they had all the care and nurturing. And still, the children that had the first year with the nurturing and the early experience and care, they still thrive and surpass the ones that had like 5-6 years of care afterwards. So
Well,
that's why it matters so much.
right. And one of the challenges I see with parenting, at least it happened to me, is we see what our parents did, or we hear what someone else tells us to do. But like you said, some children have different needs. And sometimes I bet a lot of parents think they're being nurturing, they are teaching empathy, but they're not. One of the things I heard also is that with the temper tantrums, right? And with the game plan, they're going to learn how to read their children. And once you learn how to read your children, you can support their needs, and then you can have you can have a more peaceful outcome instead of the tantrums, instead of the biting, right?
And you teach the skills. So that's the thing. The game plan is really to teach the skills before they need it. So that's the really point. Like, okay, you can't teach a child, the kind or something when they're already being, or the tantrum when they're having a tantrum. Like, that's not going to happen. They're having a tantrum because they don't have those skills, because they don't have ways to communicate, right? Or let's say appropriate ways to communicate. So that's why we need, it needs to be intentional. And as I said, the terrible two is the result of one, the three-nager is the result of two. So everything is happening a year before, and we need to know what skills they're going to need in teaching now. And this is not, jumping ahead of what they know. It's really like there are ways that you can teach control in your baby. Really, like it's really starts
I find that
from the
fascinating.
first. Yeah, and I have one wonderful example with one of my charges. She was about 10 months old. And I never had my phone with me when we worked. And then it just so happened we were going to nap, and she was so wonderful. Like, it would go close to the schedule. She herself would start crawling to the room without any prompt. It was amazing. So she was doing that. We were going for nap time. And then she sees my phone across the room that was charged, like by the wall. And I think for her, it was just like, phone, something cool. So she stops and she starts like reaching out, not knowing if she wanted to go for the phone or not knowing if she wants to go to the room, because she's tired and she wants to nap, and she knows she's not supposed to, she doesn't have the phone to play all the time. So this is one of a life experience, right? She's 10 months old, she gets up and she doesn't know where she's going. She's still learning to walk and she can balance. But it was so incredible. At that one point, she just started crying. And I could see, it's almost like I could see the gears in her head. She didn't know what to do. Like, she was like, okay, there's two choices. What do I do? Do I go to sleep? Do I go play with the phone and go to sleep? And for me, it was like, this right there. Like, I wish I had a camera to pick moments like this. But those are things that I've seen it and I've experienced, like, oh my God, like, we don't give as much credit to babies as we should, because they know those thought process and what's going on. It's amazing. And this tells
overwhelmed, right?
They were overwhelmed and with choice, but this is a cognitive thing that we're not thinking that babies can choose. Okay, is it nap better for me, or I'm tired, this is what I want, or so it's one of those things. Like, I don't think we realize how smart babies are and how we really can start teaching them and installing those early social emotional skills. It's not, I had parents, actually, some of the folks that I worked a couple years ago, they say like, oh, but they're not as intelligent yet. They're not still talking. And it's like, you don't wait for your child to be talking to the, to teach them how to talk and to teach them. So, and, sometimes the language delay, it is from the environment. If you're not talking to your child, if you're not reading, that's why they're not developing at the pace that they, otherwise would. So if they don't have that intake, that input, you can't expect that there's no output, right? So yeah, everything is from the first. It's really important.
So there's no right or wrong parenting, right? There's no right or wrong way of doing this. There are tactics that you can use, just like also you have financial planning, you have career planning, right? And they say, oh, kids don't come with a manual. I think that the game plan is manual.
They do, and you just need to learn how to read that manual with your child. So the user comes with it, and you provide the user, right? So that's what I tell. Like, yes, there's so many books out there, but the mistake is when parents want to apply everything they're reading, so many books, and believe me, so many parents will get so overwhelmed because the books
Overwhelmed,
also
yeah.
contradict themselves. So
Right.
it's not a matter of one fits all. It's really learning how to use your child with the skills that we're talking about.
Right. And for me particularly, I am big on experts. I really, if an expert refers me, suggests for me some kind of book, I will read it, but I won't try to do what an expert does. I see it over and over again. When I speak with an expert, they would just say, oh, just do this. Oh, just add that. And it's so simple. But
Yeah.
even reading, even researching, we can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Especially with your children, you don't want to be playing with, just posting on social media or other places. Oh, what should I do? You want to speak with someone who knows the science and the professional and the personal, all of those things, having experience with different kinds of children, not just that. Oh, I'm going to tell you what worked with my children.
Yeah.
So with that,
Oh, I was going to say, and that's exactly the challenge that I had and I shared with you, because sometimes, yes, I need to be out there and talking to parents, but sometimes it's so heartbreaking to see that they are going for all the advice they're getting on Facebook, and it's not necessarily the most helpful advice, and they're not looking at the big picture. So it's great when you get, share those experiences, but you need to remember that your child is not the same as the other person's child, and their family dynamics are not the same. So we do need to be careful of what type of advice we're taking in, and not to get frustrated because there's a thing, oh, it worked with me, oh, it was perfect, it was. No, your situation is different. So as we said, like, yes, there's no right or way or wrong way to parent, but I think there is bad advice out there because they don't know the whole story. And it's something about, you can Google something and, and you can ask, friends, but again, you are the expert in your family and you need to play that into any advice you take, right? And it's not just sharing like, a long page about your situation. It's still, your child is different. So there's so many that, things that are factors that go into it. And, some advice can be more damaging because then you're going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel like, okay, you work for them. What am I doing wrong? So I do caution parents about, where you're getting your advice from, and understanding that your family and your child is unique.
Right, exactly. So you're a new business owner, right?
Yes.
You opened a business 8 months ago.
Yep.
And some of the people who are listening to our interview, they're new business owners. So I would like for you to share one or two challenges that you have had when you first started your business, and how you overcame that challenge. And I also like to finish by hearing from you, what is your goal, your business goal for this year?
Okay. I think the specific challenge that I had opening was really trying to get out there. I've been spoiled and blessed in the past that I had parents coming to me before I officially started the business. I was working informally with referrals, right? So I was working maybe with a family a month or a family every 2 months. I didn't advertise. They just, they would just fall into my lap. And then that's a different thing when you're not making a living out of that. And then when it's your business, you do need to get out there because, I don't have that it's not a side gig. This is what I'm committed myself to do. And being an introvert, believe it or not, it was hard for me to get out there and talk to people. And I don't have trouble talking about my business. Like, I'm confident. I love what I do. But that first start and getting out there it was hard because I didn't want to. I think in my mentality was almost like I saw as a selling, and we worked with us. And I know it's not about selling. Again, I need to understand. And many parents also told me this. I can't be the best kept secret, right? They need to know about me because, I have been helping a lot of parents. So it was changing that mentality that, okay, I'm not really selling a service, but I do want to help you. So how can I help you? What can I do for you? So that has helped me to get more out there, still working on it, as you know, but just changing that mentality and being more comfortable with, approaching folks that otherwise and not waiting for them to come to me. And this is the other thing that my challenge currently, and we're still working on, is the reframing, not reframing the message. It's just, I feel like we are in a cultural society where we come for help when we have trouble, right? We're not thinking about the preventive. We're not thinking about getting the help before it's a problem. And that's, I love working with parents when, it's a sleeping issue, it's a feeding, something that's already a problem. And I joke with them, like, I can take your money anytime because, this is something that's happened now. We just need to fix it, right? But I would love to help them before, so this doesn't become a problem.
Right.
So then I don't have to come back every 6 months for, sleep regressions and other, sleeping issues. So it's just a matter of reframing, I think, the message, or reaching out parents before they have the problem. And I think that's also like a cultural change. It's not just up to me. And I think like, as humans, we are designed to just ask for help when we have a problem, right?
When it hurts, when it's painful.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. I would love to help before it becomes a problem. And talk to parents. That's why it's called the game plan. So we make a plan, and we understand like what are the challenges that are going to happen. So we anticipate everything, and we're ready to go. So we don't have to come to those challenges and stress out later on without knowing like what's happening, how did it happen, what do I do. So that's really what I would love to work with and help more parents with.
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely part of your message in what you're here to do, is to bring the preventive side of parenting, and even rhymes, preventive side of parenting.
Yeah.
It is a cultural mindset that, we go to dentists, right? Because every 6 months, because we wanted to prevent. Yeah. So it's a matter of helping people understand the message that when you prevent is better than crying, later. And share with the audience one of your goals for this year. I know you have intensives, and you have an intensive coming up in June. Yeah. So and the intensives is over the weekend. So share with us a little bit, or with the audience, about your intensive.
Okay. So with the game plan intensive, 2 full days, and that's where we do, as I said, that's the planning, right? So it is a lot of content, and I understand. So that's why I think it's easier to get parents before they are already overwhelmed with children. But that's where we go into all of the stuff we talked today. And we have, so right now it is in person here in Cambridge or in the greater Boston area. I actually have several office locations where I can teach from. And I am working from, the goals in 2018 is really to also bring this into an online platform. So I do want to bring this and make it accessible for folks all around the country or around the globe. So that's something that, still working on the online platform. It's, as I said, right now it's a one-woman business, so I'm doing really everything when I shouldn't. So things are still a little bit slow, still getting out of the ground. As I said, it's not even a year old. My business is not even a year old yet. So a lot of learning, a lot of testing, but I am excited with the classes, and it has helped folks. So that's what matters. As I said, like, I continue to do and provide a service that I really know how to do. I'm the teacher, I'm the content, so that's what I know best. The marketing and the other business stuff we figure out as we go, but that's the part that I thrive, that I'm really confident, and then I actually love doing. So I do love the classes, and as I said, right now it's the intensive with Saturday and Sunday, 2 full days, and
yeah. Well, without the marketing, there are no butts on the seats. So
yeah, true.
To have that.
That's very true.
And actually, you're doing a great job with your networking and making connections. So, and you reach out to all your sphere of influence at the end of the year, and you're doing your marketing and reaching out to people, which is very important. Educating your sphere of influence. That's one of the the first steps that we take in promoting your business. So I wanted to thank you for this amazing interview, and what I learned about what you can do to prevent things that will happen later, so you don't have to go through chaos, crisis, and overwhelm with your children. And it's to having a plan, have a game plan, and that will support you in knowing when to feed your baby, how to, what is the best techniques for them to sleep. I know I talked to you once that a friend of mine the baby was crying every 2 hours, and you gave me at least 5 different reasons why the baby could be crying every 2 hours. So, and it was really something. Congratulations on taking this step to follow your purpose and stepping out there and sharing your message with new parents and your expertise. So, here it is. I wanted to thank you again. And if you need to, or anything that is related to parenting, you're a new parent, you can find Thaty at caretactics.com. caretactics.com. She's all over on social media also. You can find her. And she'll have she'll share with you great tactics to help you take great care of your baby and raise your child to their fullest potential.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And yes, I look forward to helping more parents.
Thank you, Thaty.
Bye.
Bye.